seemed like we had a bit of problem following directions, as I got emails from, I don't know, a dozen or so of you guys immediately following the homework quiz. So I've created a second version. I reopened that until 3 p.m. today. All the conditions are exactly the same, so it is timed. Before you hit the submit at the end, you need to take each individual question and hit OK to submit your answer for each individual question. And it'll tell you whether that individual question is right or wrong. And if it's wrong, you can take a second attempt at it. But you have to do all of that before you submit the final at the bottom. So don't hit submit at the bottom until you've gone and hit OK for each individual question. And it is timed. It is 10 minutes long. You don't have to try it again if you don't want to. If you do elect to do this again, though, I'm not going to give you the easier scoring rubric that I used for the first round. So if you looked at Power School, I made an announcement that described how I scored that. With the exception of Paul, who I think is taking it for the first time because he was absent on the day, who I would still give the original scoring rubric to. But if you're doing it a second time, which is fine, you can elect to do that. You don't need to email me or whatever. You just need to do it, and I'll see the result and update the score. But I will, instead of like 8 or 9 correct being 9, I'm going to just give you like, basically convert your percentage to a number between 0 and 10. So it's a little bit, the scoring will be a little bit tighter, although the format and everything is still the same. And you don't need to do that. You don't need to do it again. Only if you want to, you can do it again. If you do it again and you do worse, then I'm putting in the worst number. So really only do it if you're like pretty confident you can do better. Does that sound okay to everybody? I know I got emails from several of you having issues with not realizing there was a time limit, or the screwed up how you didn't submit your individual questions before turning the whole thing in, or whatever else. So we'll just, if you want to do it a second time, that's your prerogative. You can do that. It's going to be scored a little bit more difficultly, where I'm going to look at just the percentage that you get on it and convert that to a number between 0 and 10. So like an 80 becomes an 8, for example. Easy conversion for me. With the exception of Paul, who I think this is his first time doing it. He missed the homework quiz day. So I've reopened that. It's on the bulletin board page. It's called Factoring Homework Quiz version 2. And that's open till 3 p.m. today, so you have until 3 o'clock to do that. Again, it's still timed. You still should be submitting, the format for answering the questions is exactly the same. The same kinds of questions. Does that meet with everybody's satisfaction? I know several of you guys emailed me about having issues with the quiz, so... Again, don't do it a second time unless you're confident that you can do better than you did the first time. A lot of you guys, got like 1 or 2 or 3 right because you forgot to do the submitting, or you ran out of time, or you did something silly. So I'm quite confident, like, people in that shoe should definitely do it again. But if you're like, oh, I got an 85, maybe I should do it again. It's like, well, you can, but that's not, that's not a disaster. The person that got like a 5 because they got one question started or something should, that's a disaster. But again, it's your choice. You can do whatever you'd like. Just keep in mind that I'm keeping the second score regardless of whether it's better or worse. Or the same. Is everybody okay with that plan? We're happy? Okay. So today we will talk about the test for this chapter 4. So I've put a test review onto PowerSchool. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys now. So the format for your guys' test will be basically the same as the format for this review. So the only difference is there may be less questions in some of these sections on the test, but it'll be the same kinds of questions with like the same directions, asking you to kind of do things the same way. But they're, obviously the numbers will be different, or like the number of questions could be less. It wouldn't be more. Could be the same. So there'll be, a couple of questions where I ask you to like rewrite the quadratic in the given form. There's some factoring problems. For these ones, if it's a shortcut, you don't need to show any work. If it can't be done with a shortcut, you do need to show your work. And if it's not factorable, you should use the discriminant to show why it's not factorable. And there's a bunch of those to practice with. And then we have some solving problems. Again, the solving problems you can do using the method of your choice, but you have to show work. That means that only using your calculator program is not appropriate. You do need to like show some other work to justify that, even if it's just writing the numbers in the quadratic formula. Like, that's fine. For as far as work shown. We have some graphing problems, again, where we need to graph the thing. You have to provide the vertex and the 2 points on either side of the vertex that you used. Basically just making that 5-point XY table like we did in the homework. So there's a couple of those to practice with. And then the last 3 problems here are modeling problems, just like homework 9, where I give you some information about the quadratic and ask you to write the quadratic function that meets that criteria. The way we'll do the test, which again, today's Wednesday, so the test is Friday for you guys. I'll have an email that's set to automatically send to you guys at the start of class, which is 11:15. I'd like you on the Zoom call as well while you're working on the test, just in case there's a mistake or I need to make some clarification to some directions or any of those things. It's much easier to communicate that if you guys are all on the Zoom call. So the email you get at 11:15 will have the test in it as a OneNote file. You can do the test in OneNote, or you can do the test on a separate sheet of paper. Either way is fine with me, no big deal. When you're done, you'll take your work and turn it into a PDF, and then turn that into the PowerSchool Dropbox for the test. Once you're finished with the test, you can leave the Zoom call and go about your business doing whatever other work you need to do. And that's kind of the plan for the test. Is there any questions or clarifications that I need to make on that? So it's very similar to what we do for the homework quizzes, right? So that's nice that we've had some practice doing that beforehand. Okay. So today, I'll take any final kind of questions or clarification questions, and then we'll release you guys to work on the reviews. I want to point out that in the content library, I have the review and the review key written. So I have like some written out answers in here. So I have a little bit of work shown. Some cases there's a little bit less, but for the most part, it should be pretty easy to figure out kind of what I did if you kind of know what you're doing already. And I have keys for all the homework assignments for this chapter up as well, if you were looking to go back and do something again and work on them. These, I don't have any work shown for them because, well, it's going to be a lot to type all of that in as also. But I do have keys posted for these things if you wanted to, if you needed to check anything. Okay, so questions from you guys. Anything at all, whether it's about the format of the test or how things are going to work, or specific things from homeworks or whatever. I'm happy to spend a few minutes here, or however much time we want, kind of answering those things. And again, you can say that out loud or you can type it into the chat. Either is fine.
I
Sergio?
have a general question.
Yeah.
Did you post the keys for all the homework in this review yet?
Yeah, so they should be there. You might need to sync if you can't see them, but they should be in the content library for OneNote.
Okay.
I did that yesterday, and I did the update or the sync yesterday. So I think everything on my end should be good.
Okay. Yeah, I just haven't done that yet then.
Okay, that's
Okay.
probably all it is then, Sergio.
Yeah.
If you can't find them, let me know. But if someone
Okay.
else can confirm that they are seeing them, that would be good. Just to let me know that it's good on my end. Is anybody looking in the
Yeah,
content?
it's still there.
Okay. So Lissa says everything is there in the content library. So I think after a sync, you should see it then, Sergio.
Yeah, 'cause my OneNote always has problems, so that makes sense.
Okay. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I just have a general question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you're finding the vertex and it's in vertex form and it's h comma k, the h is always the opposite negative symbol of what it is in the parentheses, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, for example, if we had the vertex here would be 3, 4. It'd be the opposite of whatever it appears.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And the same thing is true with the P and the Q for intercept form, are also the opposite sign of whatever they appear in the parenthesis. I figure since we're talking about it, I would mention that as well. That's an easy one to forget also. Okay. Others?
Oh, Mr. Kulik,
Yes.
can you visually show what you just told Jack about the P and Q thing, just so I can get an idea?
Yeah. Sure. No problem. Maybe I'll pick a different number than 3 since I already have 3 there. So here, the P would be -4 and the Q would be +2. Again, the opposite sign of whatever they appear in the parenthesis. Does that work for you, Edmund? That's what you wanted? Perfect. Okay, well, if you guys change your mind and something comes up, you can always send me an email and try to get back to it fairly quickly. I know I ignored most of your emails about the homework quiz this time, but it was just because I got so many of them, and it was like, well, we'll just take care of this in class rather than spending an hour replying to each of these individually. But I read them all. Don't worry, guys. So spend some time working on the review, and that should be that. Before you leave, if you can type bye into the chat for attendance purposes, that would be good. Otherwise, have a good day, and I'll see you guys on Friday.